The last video I made focused on HTML, everything from the underlying theory to rendering elements and even introducing forms. However, writing HTML tags and attributes from scratch by hand isn't the most optimal way to work, as you've no doubt experienced yourselves, because I surely have. And it's not just me though. Tediously repeating oneself and writing the same thing over and over again gets really old really fast. So to combat this, the guys at Emmet have devised a very simple solution for this in the form of an IDE plugin of the same name. The goal of this project was to make the development experience on the web much friendlier for beginners who are actively trying to get into the industry, as well as some seasoned developers who don't work with HTML tags on a daily basis but have to hop on it for some work from time to time. Today I will be showing you what Emmet is and how it is used, and a couple of tips and tricks to make this plugin truly work for you, and not the other way around. So let's get to it. Now, before we start off and get into the code, it's important to take note of the text editor, or IDE, being used. I will be writing all of my code in Visual Studio Code, which comes with Emmet pre-installed, and we can test this by simply coming over here and writing some Emmet code. For example, if I write an exclamation point and press tab, I will get the HTML boilerplate, meaning that the Emmet is installed on VS Code. The other two main options for an IDE, though, are Atom, which is made by GitHub, and Sublime Text, and neither one of those comes with Emmet pre-installed, which means that you will probably have to install the plugin manually before you start following this video. Now, if this applies to you, you should probably pause the video and do some light googling, since I won't be explaining how to install additional extensions. And with that out of the way, I believe we can start coding. Emmet is an HTML plugin that makes writing tags simpler and more enjoyable, thus improving the development experience. We can write any CSS-like expression that can be dynamically parsed and will produce HTML output. This means, for example, that I don't have to write the paragraph tag like this, like we did in the previous video, but I can just type the letter P and press tab. This produces the desired effect and saves the developer a lot of time, and in order to write better code and be able to modify it much more easily, Emmet is basically a must. It teaches developers how to conceptualize the document structure and write better, more efficient and elegant code. And this idea of creating tags would not just work on valid HTML elements, but also on some custom-made web components, React components, Vue, Angular components, and so on. For example, I can come over here and write something like and press tab, and it'll automatically complete. We can also specify the class or ID of the tag or component we wish to create. If I type, for example, span.blue and press tab, it'll give me the span element with the class of blue. But now in a separate line, if I do span hash red and press tab, it'll give me a span with the ID of red, like this. Of course, we're not just limited to either one or the other of these. We can combine them. I can also come here and create an element like div with a class of blue as well as a class of red. This is how we concatenate classes, and an ID of purple, for example, and it works perfectly. Of course, classes and IDs aren't everything. Sometimes we would like to put a title attribute as a hover tooltip, or maybe some custom data attribute for JavaScript. Writing, for example, this and pressing tab would give us a paragraph with the title of Hello World, and if we were to hover over it in the HTML document, we would get a little pop-up saying Hello World. The square brackets are used for adding additional attributes to the element that aren't IDs and classes, but may still be required in some cases. So far we've only scratched the surface, because we can also nest code while using Emmet. For example, the direct child CSS operator is used to add the children to parent elements. For example, writing div greater than span and pressing tab would give us a div element with a span child inside of it, like this. Now, the nesting operator is pretty nifty in that it can nest as many times as possible. Writing div and then another div and maybe an article element inside with a paragraph and a span which holds a link. Pressing this will give us the whole, all of this structure. Now, the direct sibling CSS operator would add a sibling element instead of a direct child to our element in question. So writing div plus span would give us a div and a span next to it. And again, this operator can be used and chained as many times as necessary to add elements next to each other, as well as used with the direct child operator to add children to some elements as well, like here. Another element or operator that is used is the caret symbol, this one, and it's a direct parent CSS operator, and it creates an element one level above the current element. So writing this and pressing tab would give us a div with a span element as its direct child, as well as the heading 2 element, because we use the sibling operator here, and then an article next to it because we went one level up and created the article element there. Now, as if all of that weren't enough, we may actually add multiple elements at once using the multiplication symbol. For example, writing the OL li times 5 and pressing tab would give us a numbered list with 5 list elements as its direct children. Now, in order to execute more operations at once, we can group our code using regular parentheses. So writing this, for example, may even be enough to give us a whole structure like this, getting the div element with a header and a bullet list with a link list items inside, I mean 2 of them, and then a footer element with a paragraph. Sometimes this is more than enough to create the entire structure. And to wrap this up, we can also use the curly braces to add inner text to the element. For example, writing span and then hello world like this would give us a span element with its inner text here being hello world. And now if we would like to add the text when we're multiplying, and for example we have one of the variables that is changing based on the item's position, we can do something like this. When adding text, we can use this symbol. The $sign symbol will be replaced with the number and then multiply like this. Item number 1, 2, and 3. Save this. In conclusion, Emmet makes adding boilerplate code to the application a more fun and enjoyable experience while still allowing the developer to retain full control of the document structure. It's a useful tool to learn and powerful when mastered because it significantly shortens the development. That's basically it. Thank you for watching my video.